Welcome to the Cam and Joe Show. My name is Joe Steele with my wonderful friend Cameron Elkins.
What's up, buddy?
God, man.
Good morning, good morning.
To not beat a dead horse. I saw you last year.
Yeah, right?
How many times did you hear that?
Happy New Year. Yeah. Every friend that I had interacted with, like right before the New Year's, like, hey, see you next year.
Yeah.
I feel like you're in junior high. I love that.
Oh, man. Everyone's
see you
like,
next year. And like,
yeah, that's the joke that goes like in the pocket. And they're
that.
like, this is them saying it every year.
And now that I'm a dad of 3, I just, dude, my dad joke game is strong.
Good. Well, we may have to do we may have to do a video dad
We
joke
could do a whole episode of dad jokes.
My 7-year-old,
yeah,
I literally will get my 10-year-old to cringe going, stop. And my 7-year-old's all, keep going.
Keep going. This is hilarious. Dad, you're the best. And you just get all the endorphin highs and all the validation you'd ever need.
I'm the villain and the hero at the same time.
It's the best. It's the best.
So if it's
new year. Oh, no, please go ahead.
First time watching this, like, subscribe, hit that button. We're going to be talking today. So if you know, we're going to be talking today about New Year, new resolutions. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be talking about health, mental health, but more for mental concepts, how to keep yourself positive and how to focus and meditate on what's proper. And Cameron has a degree
in kinesiology.
And so he's going to get...
We're going to be talking about health and wellness and the importance of sleep and micronutrients and macronutrients. And we're going to do a deep dive, but we're going to keep it in a form that is understandable.
So like, I love this crap. Nerdy wise. Some of my favorite conversations were with nutritionalists.
Yeah.
At the hospital. And like,
I love it.
I would talk, I'm like, so you mean that there's good fats? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, you mean like protein? And they're like, yeah. And so
there's just some concepts out there. I mean, we could dive right in. There are concepts out there like that, like fats are bad. Well, not all fats are treated equal.
Yep.
Like, and beyond that, when you're just talking about like some of the ideas out there that people think are terrible, right? Like salt.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they're like, oh my God, salt's the devil, right? I'm like, well, if you didn't have it, you wouldn't exist.
It's super
right? We are a water-based organism, right? With potassium pumps and sodium pumps. And if you get chemically off, it could lead to so many other problems, but people don't think like that. They just think, hey, and this has always been kind of a paradigm shift for me. People will take seriously a medication. They pop a pill in their mouth. They take it seriously. They're regimented. I take these 2 pills when I wake up, and I take this pill before bed, and da-da-da-da. Yet they'll put all these things into their body via food in that same mouth that the pill went into, and they're just so scattered and haphazard, right? And they think like that pill is going to rescue them from everything else that they're putting into their body. When you're looking at it from a holistic standpoint, people can cure themselves sooner rather than later and more quickly than they would think by leaning away from fast food and soda and white flour and stuff like that. When you start to put healthier things into your body, you're putting a higher quality fuel into your body, so your engine is going to run stronger. And I love it from a client standpoint. When I was in the fitness industry, and even now, because I have a couple nutritional clients that I'm helping kind of guide and
that's amazing. Yeah,
nutritionally train.
Well, you never turn it off.
No,
I mean the reality is, and you care for people, and what's caring more than making sure they have longevity?
100%, and I enjoy it. It's not hard for me, and it's also kind of fun to kind of harp on people when they don't send you a photo of dinner because they were out. Like, I'm not going to name her name, but I had a client who was out at dinner last night, and she told me at lunch that she was going to dinner. I was like, all right, cool. Send me a photo of dinner. So when I didn't get a photo by like 8:30, I was like, wow, fasting dinner. The fact that you didn't eat is like, I don't know to be impressed or what. No text back until this morning. And she like let out with, hey, sorry. I was like, it's all right. Like, how did we do? Yeah. Right? There are ways to make good decisions nutritionally. There's ways to make bad decisions nutritionally. You're going to make a bad decision. You are planning to fail if you're failing to plan, right? Period. Yep. Simple. My clients that have seen years back, 5-6 years back when I was in the fitness industry, and now more recent, now that I've kind of very much back burner and on the side, taking on some nutritional clients.
Sure.
The clients that have a plan, that know going into a day what they're going to have for breakfast, at least what they're going to have for breakfast, what they're going to have for lunch, and then stay on a pretty tight base for dinner.
Yeah.
They're seeing inches. I had a client lose in the first 3 weeks together. They lost just over 2 inches.
Yeah.
Just between arm, hip, belly button, and high thigh. And she's like, well, I haven't lost any weight. I'm like, but you've lost over 2 inches.
Yeah, yeah.
You are losing fat.
Yeah.
And she's working out, so she's replacing it with lean muscle.
Perfect.
And every pound of muscle that you build is more calories naturally, organically, you're going to be burning. So for the individuals who are like, all right, new year, new me, and now it's, what's today? The 5th?
The 5th.
And they're already like, I've failed. I'll start next Monday, or I'll start next month, or February would be better, or I'll start next year.
Yeah.
It's like if you can bring the mindset in and just focus on one day at a time. It's not new year, new me. It can be new day, new me, right?
Absolutely.
What can I do today
to
put in a higher quality fuel into my body, right? How can I not get to noon or 1 or 2 in the afternoon and realize I haven't had any water?
Yeah.
Well, what I do, I set a water bottle before I go to bed. I'll set it right on my Keurig.
Oh, yeah.
So I can't reach for coffee
without grabbing it,
without touching a 32-ounce bottle of water.
It's right there.
And 32 ounces for myself, because I try to drink a gallon a day, is a quarter of the water that I need. So if it's literally in the way of my Keurig, I can't be like, oh, I didn't think about it. Because I planned the night prior, I was successful in the morning.
Totally makes sense. Well, it's funny, and that goes into the mindsets thing, because I'm trying to remember, there was a study that was out, and they asked the same question to Europeans, because if you go over to Europe, and a lot of people in European nations, they're a lot more slender, but they're also they know to go to the market at this time to get the goods that they're bringing home, that they're cooking with.
Yeah, there's so much magic to that, man.
Right? It's
so much magic.
It's fresh food. It's nothing is like, and then you have enough for the day, and then you go out and you get some more for the next day, right?
Which inherently, right there, you're not buying a whole bunch of garbage that's going to sit in a can or in a box or on a shelf.
Yep. With
a crazy shelf life. You're going to buy things that are going to spoil over the next couple of days, and you're getting it as you need it.
Yeah. And so they did a study, and they're like, we're going to ask the same questions. So they went to Europe and said, when we say the word cake, what do you think of? I think the study's like 8 years old. There may be a new one, but this is what I know. Sorry if this isn't what lines up now. But they said cake, and in Europe they went
the band.
Celebration.
No, I'm kidding.
They went celebration, birthday, wedding.
Yeah.
So they went to America, and they said, all right, when we say the word cake, what do you think of? They said, fat, sugar, bad. And so think of like, I think of it this way, like if something, something, it's like the bad boy concept.
Yeah.
Like,
it's don't press that button. You're like,
but I really want to press it.
No one's looking. Pop, 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 pop.
Yes.
Yeah. So if the mindset is that equals bad, or another way to look at it is that equals reward.
Yes. I've had such a hard day. I deserve 3 Twinkies and a Snickers and a large Coke because I'm worth it.
And then it'll get you because it's, my kids are hungry and I didn't plan for them and I didn't plan for me, and who wants a Happy Meal?
Yeah.
And then that's where you go.
Exactly.
But it's like the individual who is going to finally get themselves out of that rut.
Yeah.
If today isn't it, what can you do today for tomorrow to be better?
Yeah.
If it's already 10 in the morning, 9 in the morning, if it's already noon or 1 o'clock, and you're like, this day is toast. Okay. You can either throw the baby out with the bathwater and not think at all about the next day, or you can go grab a bottle of water, set it in front of your Keurig.
Yep.
The way I do in the morning, just to kind of make sure that your hydration starts out.
Yep.
Or whatever you're cooking that night for dinner, if your family isn't about it or not thinking about it or not wanting it, cook it that night though, so you have it the next day for lunch.
Absolutely.
You're going to be hungry for lunch the next day. Is that a surprise? No, it's not. That's just how your body works.
Sure.
So if you are planning in advance, oh my gosh, you're going to be successful. And it seems so like elemental, the concept.
Yeah.
But it's just like saying it out loud to people. And they're like, I don't really think of it like that. I'm saying that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But you have to think about it like fuel. My clients that right now are having a ton of success, we're what do they say? I'm going to botch it, but they say eat breakfast, what is it? Breakfast like a king, lunch like a serf, and peasant at dinner. So your caloric intake is higher first half of the day. Why? Well, because you're going to have the greatest amount of energy output first half of the day. You have your whole day to burn those calories, right? After dinner, unless you're about to go to your jiu-jitsu class or CrossFit or go powerlifting, why do you need so much fuel at dinner?
Well, you're not doing anything.
You're not doing anything after.
That's the
So what's the point of filling up the gas tank if you're just going to park the car in the garage, right? So starting out with fuel in the morning for the day.
Yeah.
Getting the calories in, and then just balancing the calories. Like if you're looking at the plate, get rid of the whole American triangle thing.
Yeah,
Scrap that, throw that on its ear. If you can lean into leaner proteins, higher quality proteins, and whether somebody's consuming animal proteins or they're not consuming animal proteins, whatever it may be for that individual, but they're what's palpable for them. If you can lean into healthier fats earlier in the day, avocado, like the more study they do on avocado, the more they're like, okay, avocado, we can throw it up there as a superfood. And
if you're ever hungry, you can go to Steelhouse Coffee for
my gosh. And your avocado toast, a little cracked pepper, elite. Little sriracha. Don't get me started.
I'm salivating.
Why did we not bring it? Next time.
I'm a slacker.
Next time. Gosh. If only my buddy owned a coffee shop.
Slackers.
So throwing avocado, like a couple of my clients right now, I could literally show you a photo this morning. 2 eggs scrambled, 1 additional without the yolk, just not to go super crazy on the fats. Half avocado, 1 slice wheat toast, a little bit of peanut butter. There's additional protein right there. And that's it. And they have it with their black coffee and grass-fed butter. It's like bulletproof coffee, which I could spend a whole hour long talking about. Grass-fed ingredients, so on and so forth.
No, for sure.
I'll skip it. But if you're starting your day out with protein, a balanced carb, and a fat, that's like literally the perfect start to your day.
Everything your body needs.
Everything that your body needs. Right? And if you're chugging that quick, either 16 or 32 ounce bottle of water beforehand, and then you have your coffee with your breakfast, what an amazing way to start the day. But some people are like, well, I don't have the time. Okay, well, if cracking eggs in a pan and cutting open an avocado and throwing a quarter cup about a quarter cup of blueberries onto your plate and throwing a piece of toast in the toaster or bread in the toaster, peanut butter on it, that should, from the time you're cracking an egg to the time you're consuming it, maybe 15 minutes all in.
No, it doesn't take
12 to 15 total.
Unless you really don't like to cook eggs right.
Truly, right? But that same 15 minutes can be sacrificed if you put your phone away 15 minutes earlier instead of scrolling mindlessly for an hour and a half to get tired before bed. Go to bed 15 minutes earlier, wake up 15 minutes earlier. If it's important to you, you will do it. And if it's not, best of luck with your meds.
Well, and that's the thing. Yeah, exactly. Well, and one thing that was always talked about, people don't realize that if you're on a keto diet, the purpose of that is ketosis, right? It is getting your body in such a lean state that the fat starts to melt off, right? Well, what's the opposite of that? Acidosis. Because your body is so acidic that it starts to shut down, which is what happens when your sugars are off. And that's what happens with diabetes. Okay. I know you love this.
No, I love it. I'm smiling because when other people get it, I'm just like, it's refreshing.
Oh yeah. So what people don't realize, and this is something talking to nutritionalists, because I would always talk to her because she, I'm trying to remember her name. She was incredible. There was there was a whole team, and they rotated out, and they had different clients, and just to see them, they would work with diabetic to non-diabetic. So I asked her, I was just asking her health stuff, and the biggest thing that she mentioned when it came to, she talked to me about the blood glucose starch index. Okay, that's probably not the term for it, but that's what we referenced a lot. So a cup of sugar, when it comes to your bloodstream, is a cup of sugar. Now, everyone will say, well, starches, they're bad. Well, starches, they're good, right? And you can kind of run into that game where it's like, well, I had a bunch of potatoes, and so I had my sugar intake. It's like, okay, you're not wrong. That it totally receives that way. But, sweet potato, starch, that sugar doesn't go 1-to-1 like a cup of sugar.
Correct.
Does.
Correct.
Right? And someone's like, I had sweet potato. That's better. Like sweet potato is much better than a regular potato.
Yep.
Because
Absolutely.
of how it reaches into your blood glucose system and flushes it out. The other thing is tapioca is like 3 to 4 times more starch to sugar intake. And it is the biggest no-no if somebody's diabetic. Stay away from tapioca.
Got it.
And tapioca is what's used in maltodextrin. Thing.
Which is put into just about everything that is sitting on a shelf or in a can.
Yep. And so I watched a show called Snack versus Chef. And it was actually, I learned so much watching it. They literally would go to a vending machine and they'd be like, click, all right, here's Oreos.
Yeah.
Chefs, remake this. So then they have to, from scratch, take all the ingredients and make it from scratch and try and get the same consistency and all that stuff.
Sure.
And I'm watching them throw stuff in. And I'm like, what are you grabbing? How are you doing? Some of it was like, okay. Like Oreos surprised me actually how natural it was.
Got it.
More so.
Got it.
I'm not saying go home and eat 10 pounds of Oreos.
Episode 9 brought to you by
I'm healthy.
Oreo.
Oh my gosh. It's my weakness. No, but I watched, for example, a guy, they had to make potato chips. So he deep fried the potato chips.
Yeah.
And then he was like, I'm going to make a seasoning. So the guy cooked a whole pot of shrimp and crab and butter, right? And then he took the grease or the drippings from it, poured it into a pan and added in maltodextrin. And the maltodextrin absorbed all of it up. And then he put it in a processor, made a powder, and coated his chips with it. And here you go. And people are eating. They're like, oh my gosh, that tastes just like. That's what they do.
Wow.
So that's why they get the flavors. So in order for them to pack the flavor in there, that's why they do it. But nobody really realizes that preservative intake itself increases the amount of blood sugar in your system. Huge way. When it says calories, it's a lie.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? You know,
what do you got?
Calories. People counting calories. I always think it's almost superfluous to a huge degree because by counting them, you're neglecting what you're eating, what you're putting in your system, and how you're burning it off.
Two different modalities completely. Like there's the individual that's an energy molecule. I mean, just call a calorie like it is. It's a unit of energy, right? So if somebody is going to be burning their BMR, their basal metabolic rate, which is the amount of calories you're going to burn at rest through a very traditional non-exercise based day, right? If somebody's BMR, basal metabolic rate, the amount of calories they're going to burn in a day is 2,000 for the sake of conversation. If that individual, without additional exercise, puts in 2,500 calories and their BMR is 2,000, they're going to have a surplus of 500 calories.
Yep.
How does your body store food? We don't store it in our cheeks like ground squirrels, right? Exactly. It's going to metabolize overnight.
We store them in other cheeks.
There you go. What is it? I want buns of cinnamon, not buns of steel. I love that. I don't know where I read it, but it's I want buns of cinnamon, not buns of steel.
My wife showed me that last night. It was a meme.
There you go. Cinnamon. There you go. I want buns of cinnamon, not buns of steel. But that individual, if your BMR is 2,000, you're putting in 2,500 calories, and they're like, gosh. And if they're not working out and the additional calories are not going to be in their body applied to not only osteogenesis, the creation of new bone, but if it's not going to be replacing any torn muscle via exercise, it's just going to store. It's going to sit there and be stored. So fat is a battery. Right. That's the best way. When I was sitting in exercise physiology lab at Sac State, stingers up. Shout out Sac State. When you start to the light bulb starts to come on and you're like, wow. I mean, and then you're sitting there just realizing God did such an incredible job.
Oh my gosh,
when he built us down to the smallest little myofibril sarcomer in a muscle. And you microscope it times 1,000 and there's these little mini, it's called excitation contraction coupling between these little mini sodium potassium pumps. And you're watching and you're learning about this at a molecular level. All these little sodium, where sodium's connecting and then potassium's coming in to release it. And then you realize, okay, at a macro level, if my chemical is off, if my balance is off, and if I'm not getting enough potassium into my body, if I know that at a molecular level, the potassium is going to go in there and pull the sodium off of that excitation contraction coupling, that equals a cramp.
Yeah, exactly.
From a molecular level, if you're looking deep dive at it, okay. And what do they say to eat so you don't cramp? Potassium. And then you realize, okay, it's not just eating a banana. You realize when it goes down to the microscopic level, that is why.
Absolutely.
So when you take food, and I am not perfect. Gosh, I'm not perfect.
No,
but I love this stuff because it's just so I'm passionate about it because it's so fascinating.
Yeah.
When you kind of start to do a little bit more of a deep dive into the importance of quality of food that's going into your body, it is a mind blow.
Everything changes.
And everything changes. And you start to look at food the way you should look at food.
Yeah.
Because food is fuel.
Yeah.
Right? That's exactly what it is. Yes, it's enjoyable.
Oh my God.
Right? Oh my gosh. Yeah, don't get me started. Like literally before we were rolling, we were drooling about something. It's fuel. Yeah. So if you can, and you there's no, don't seek perfection.
Sure.
Seek to be a little better every day.
Yeah.
And if you're just a little better every day, I was just chatting with my buddy TJ about this the other night at the gym. If you seek to be a little bit better every day, all those everydays add up. And if you're a little better every day over the course of a week, a month, a year, you're going to have huge amounts of progress. It's not, as of tomorrow, I'm never having McDonald's again, because you probably will.
Yeah.
So don't set yourself up for failure.
Exactly.
But if you can say, tomorrow, before I have breakfast, I'm going to chug a 16-ounce bottle of water, allow that to become normal.
Absolutely.
Allow that to be your new floor. That's your baseline.
Yeah.
And then, okay, now that you start your day with water, now how can you add in a little bit more, like some more phytonutrients into your body? How can you introduce more either leafy vegetables or colorful vegetables, or how can I get in a quarter cup of blueberries?
Yeah.
Starts by buying them.
Yeah.
Get it next time you're at the store, next time you're on the next time you're on the DoorDash app, or you're doing your grocery shopping through the app, throw it in there.
Yeah.
Because that's the victory first. You can't sit there and be like, "Oh, I don't have it." Okay, if you don't have it today, what can you do today to have it tomorrow or the next day?
Sure.
So if you can just kind of slowly change the mindset of food is fuel, what can I do? What slow progress can I make? Small, minute changes here and there. Add a bottle of water, start your hydration off. And then once you do that, okay, if you now have a bottle of water before your coffee, before your breakfast, can you add a second one before lunch?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Now you have a baseline of at least 32 ounces of water.
Exactly.
There's so much study that goes into all of these different ailments that could be, I don't want to so much say healed, but
your body will naturally counteract them
with hydration.
Yes.
Study, just if somebody's listening, just study up on that just a little bit. You realize that your body, God created us with all of these different checks and balances, all these different systems to self-regulate. But those systems do not work at peak efficiency if we're dehydrated.
I know I have so many. So I lean a lot. I'm very homeopathic when it comes to stuff. If I'm not feeling good, it's like, okay, first thing I do, all right, I'm not feeling good. I'm going to have some zinc, some vitamin D, some vitamin C.
100%.
Pump my body.
Yeah.
And then if I still have it a couple days later, I'm going to go to the doctor and be like, hey.
Yeah. Hey, I tried what I know. Yeah.
What is this? Oh, yeah, you got something nasty. Yeah, let's give you X, Y, and Z. So I think it's the balance. I hate it when people go extreme on either way.
No.
It's got to be the balance.
Magic's in the middle, man.
Right?
Magic's in the middle.
But I do know, like, I've talked to so many people with brain fog. They're like, man, yeah, I got really bad brain fog. And I'm just like, okay, you've got brain fog. Well, what are you eating? Well, yeah, so I had ice cream last night before I went to bed. I woke up this morning, I had pancakes and sausage, and then I went, and I'm like, bro, you just carb overload.
Yeah.
What amount of water are you drinking? I don't really drink water.
Yeah. I've never really needed it, and then they start to hydrate, and they're like, why do I feel so good? There's so many just, when you study it, it kind of becomes like it's a no-brainer, but it's not. Society does not have it as a no-brainer.
No, exactly.
That's why the fitness industry is what it is. I mean, because so many people don't know. Yeah. They don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
No, exactly.
Period, right? So if you're going in, blank canvas, hey, I need to know what to eat.
Yeah.
Because the American food triangle has completely failed me.
Yep.
And the lunch lady failed me. And I was never taught good habits by mom and dad.
Exactly.
And now I don't know how to eat.
Sure.
And I'm hungry all throughout the day. So when I get home, I have this massive dinner and I'm 50, 60, 70, or 80 pounds overweight. And I've got to take this, this sodium regulator, and I've got to take this diabetic medication.
Yeah.
And I've got to take all these other things. And I'm like, okay, if that's your current plate, and if you're okay with that,
then go for it.
Then go for it.
Well,
right?
It's conviction.
Cheers.
You can't change somebody's conviction.
No. I mean, exactly. And you can present this information to them. And it's sad because in the years that I was in the fitness industry, there's people that on day one, they're weeping and they're wanting to make all these incredible changes, right? And then they stare in the face at why they are grossly overweight. And they talk about how it's a comfort thing. And they talk about how they would be rewarded when they were little by their family taking them to McDonald's to get a Happy Meal.
Yeah.
And now food equals reward. And if they're having a bad day, hey, I did good today, so I deserve X, Y, and Z.
Sure.
Right. And so they're making that cognitive choice, that decision.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. And don't get me wrong, I don't want anybody to bash on this. There are obviously underlying health issues. You can't run from genetics. Period. You cannot.
No.
But you can make for yourself, maybe not for your parents, and you're hoping to be able to diagram this for your kids.
Sure.
But there are decisions that you can make daily.
Yes.
To lessen the impact of the genes that your parents gave you.
Sure.
Period.
Yeah.
And that starts with hydration, being as cognizant of what goes into your body as you are the pills that go into your body.
Yeah.
And don't overvalue the medication.
Yeah.
Because people are, again, they're so quick to be like, all right, I'm all regimented. I've got my 30 pill bottles out every morning. I take one of this and one of that and 3 of those, the green ones with the, and then they go and eat whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's going into some other place.
Yeah.
Like their body isn't breaking the food down as much as it is.
The biggest thing the biggest thing about a pharmaceutical, if you think about it this way, I always look at it as starting from a negative.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You and I both know if you have no money in the bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't go, I'm going to buy that house.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take that same concept in emotions. I'm negative in my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot start being healthy until you can get that flattened out. Okay. It's the same thing with our body. If we're negative in our nutrition, all of a sudden, I'm going to be better. Okay. Being better is just, if you can get to 0, if you can stop being at negative 20 and get to 0.
Yep.
You're not going to get the overdraft charges. You're not going to get all the stuff.
Yeah.
Your body isn't going to be demanding things from you that it can't handle.
100%.
Because now you're at an even playing field. And so when I look at pharmaceuticals, I look at it as a way of going, okay, you are at a net negative.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that could your body naturally adapt and fix? And how much of that is genetics? How much of that is self-afflicted? And how much of that is I can do better?
Yeah.
And the problem is, though, again, we talk about community always, but that's the accountability thing.
Yeah.
I want
and ownership.
And ownership. I want to eat 4 cheeseburgers for dinner, and then I want to eat cold pizza for breakfast, and I want to think that I'm not going to gain any weight because I'm young. Yeah. But what I don't realize is I'm setting myself up mentally to do that consistently. 10 years later, I'm still eating that way. And it's been 10 winters where I wasn't active. Yeah. And I kept putting on that winter coat to where all of a sudden I'm like, wow, this is a really heavy coat.
Yep.
Right? And so I think that we need to realize that we can't start from a net negative.
Yeah.
You can't start a business from a net negative.
Yeah.
You can't start working out from a net negative.
So why start your day with a net negative?
Exactly.
Doing those, and again, there's just so much magic to doing things like that first in the morning. Because training the brain, I mean, you could train, what I think they say 21 days, it takes 21 days to create like a really solid habit.
Yeah.
Just 3 weeks, man. You could blink twice and it's like, whoa, it's Friday already.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So if you can start any one day out with just being cognizant of what goes into your body, that'll have a ripple effect. Because if you're cognizant with breakfast, you'll be more cognizant when the time comes for lunch. And if you're cognizant for breakfast and lunch, you'll be cognizant at dinner. And then if you are just more aware, right? If you're just more cognitively in tune with what goes into your body, don't be surprised when you start feeling better.
Yeah.
Because you are putting the right kind of fuel. You're putting race fuel in a race car.
Yep.
You're not putting, really cheap unleaded into a Formula One, right? You're just not. Yeah. And you can't expect that Formula One to work as well with the old 87 unleaded as it would race fuel.
Well, and it's funny because people will see like athletes that'll eat tons of food, and they'll be like, "Well,
I want to
do it. I can do that." And it's like, no,
without the energy output.
They're working out 6 hours. Like,
that is their job.
4 hours, and then they work out 2 hours.
Yep.
And so they're at a net negative 3,000 carbs.
Yep.
They have to at least eat that to flatten.
Yeah.
And then if you're trying to build muscle, they gotta eat
beyond that
more.
Yeah. And they're putting down 38 to 44, 45 calories in a day.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, that's a glutton. You're like, it's not, because if you see their 1,800 or 2,000 calorie output exercise, one of 2 or 3 in a day, they have to sustain life.
The only athlete I would ever debate that on would be a sumo wrestler. That's the only one I'm like,
there's got to be some surplus there. There's got to be a little bit of surplus there.
I get that you're like, but do you need all of that? Like,
I've always that sport is just fascinating to me. And I remember it was super random. It was on like, there's so many ESPNs now, so it was probably on ESPN like 12 or 17 or whatever. It was just one evening. And
no, I've watched it many times.
We were watching a Kings game. Kings game had ended early. It was an East Coast game. And I think I flipped to like one of the other ESPN or ESPN2s. And sure enough, right there, they're just like smacking each other. And I was like, look at Beckham, and Beckham looks at me. And it was like, watch it through the commercial. Don't say a word. And then like, I turn the TV off and he's just like, what was that? I was like, buddy, those were grown men in diapers
slapping themselves.
Whack, whack, whack. So yeah, then I was able to, and this was back when he was just starting in jiu-jitsu.
Oh, nice.
And his crew at jiu-jitsu, they do this thing, it's called slap, bump, push.
Yeah.
And you'll like go up to another, another kid, Beckham will go up to another kid, and when they're doing this, it's just practicing takedowns.
Yeah.
And you don't just walk up to somebody and throw them on the floor.
No.
You initiate the little competition by slap, it's like a high five, fist bump, and then push, and then they'll engage in that. So I'm like, it's kind of like a grown version of slap, bump, push, but they're very obese grown men, and they're wearing diapers. All right, let's go to bed. And he's just like, what just happened? Buddy, I got no better explanation.
Yeah.
It's an odd sport.
The nice thing about American culture, we should not be judging any other culture.
Oh no,
because we're that whole.
Dude, we're a hodgepodge of nothing. Nothing is original.
Have you? Oh man. Well, I love watching like cooking recipes and stuff. And there's a couple. I actually cooked a paprika chicken. It was like a Russian recipe I found online. It was so good. I made it 2 nights in a row.
Did it make your stomach hurt with all the paprika? No. You have internals of steel?
I eat ghost pepper.
Got it. Like, you're one of those.
I love it. But I have no digestion issues ever.
Nice. It's all the paprika. You just burned out all your
I burned it all
your enzymes. So.
Well, I do that. To me, I understand parasites and stuff. So like to keep that out, I'm always like, let me have something spicy to kind of balance myself.
Sure.
And I'm always regular. I've never had issues. So it's like, but there are times where I'm like, okay, that's too much.
Yeah.
I should back it off.
Sure.
I don't do wing challenges because I don't hate myself.
Oh my gosh.
Like I like the flavor of it. Like I have a ghost pepper. It's like St. Maria's ghost pepper fresh salsa. And I eat it and I'm like, oh, this is so good. But anybody else eat it, they're like, how?
Oh my God.
And I'm all, but it's it's the flavors.
And that's when you have the opportunity to, and I think that just goes into kind of like challenging your body.
Yeah.
And I love that. Any way that you, and from a food standpoint, like I love a challenge.
Yeah.
So if I go into a restaurant, and this is not me though, truly, when I go into like a Buffalo Wild Wings and you see on the very bottom, it's like the Grim Reaper of all, it's like, while I love a challenge, I also need to be able to sleep that night. I'm not trying to ruin my taste buds for the next 3 days. I don't just want to taste.
It's not that initial. It's the next day. That's the one.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
No, it's the.
I don't doubt it.
You get the sweats, and then the next day you're like, I hate everyone.
I hate my life.
And everyone's like, how are you? And you're like, I'm fine. They're like,
wow.
He had a
Joe went
challenge.
to Buffalo Wild Wings. I love that.
No.
We're talking, and right now we're talking a lot about the energy input side, and I think it is. Nutrition is everything, right? I've and I'm speaking from experience here. My clients, in the 6 years that I was in the fitness industry, my clients that saw the greatest amount of success, put. I'm not even going to say 75. I'd say 80% of the focus on the nutrition, and the other 20 on the exercise. Yeah, maybe 75-25, but nothing less than 75-25, because in the other side, I saw lots of clients. And not clients, gym members that would work out intensively. for 2 hours in the evening.
Yeah.
Powerlifting, throwing up all sorts of weight. They were in there in the morning doing their cardio, but you would kind of sit back and take your seat and just kind of watch. 6 months goes by, a year goes by, and their body's not adapting.
No.
What are they not taking seriously? They're not taking seriously the other 21 hours in a day that they're not at the gym, and they're probably eating and drinking anything and everything that they can reach for, right? It was those clients, though, that realized that you can't outwork a bad diet.
Yeah,
that saw the success.
Yeah.
You simply can't.
No.
So if you just kind of let go of that and realize upfront, if I hone in a little bit better on the nutritional side, everything else will fall into line. And on top of that, if through leaning out your diet, if the positive byproduct of that is being able to get off of medication A and medication B and medication C on your own,
yes,
that's incredible. And then if you're starting to eat right, then you get to take less supplements.
Yeah.
So you don't have to supplement or use supplementation to get more vitamins and minerals in. You get them in organically by eating the right way. You're going to have, over the course of the day and the week and the month and the year, you're just going to have that much more success. So the clients of mine that had the greatest amount of success were the ones that would allow myself and my training staff, shout out to my training staff from NSFit, so many great years at that spot.
Yeah.
Love that. The clients that had the greatest amount of success would stick to the nutritional plan that we built them.
Yeah.
About 95% of the time.
Sure.
And then they would have that rogue day, or, hey, I know it's Tuesday, I'm dialed in. This Saturday, my son has a birthday party and I'm going to have 3 slices of pizza. I'm like, and I want you to have it with ranch, man.
Yeah.
And if you know that on Saturday, you get to be kind of, I don't want to say bad, but if you know on Saturday, you get to kind of go off the regimen a little bit.
Sure.
You're going to be more dialed in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're more cognizant of that. You have something to look forward to.
Absolutely.
You know, so when you're eating a little bit leaner throughout the week, you know that you get to be a little bad in the week.
Well, I mean, if you think of, again, it's the concept cake, celebration, party, friends, and then evil, bad, fat, sugar. That mindset of looking at it as not a reward, but you're celebrating with people. You're engaging with people. It's always hard for me when I get invited to multiple places and they're like, cake. And I'm like, no, I'm good. They're like, no, have some. And I'm like, no, I thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I just came from something else.
Yeah.
Water.
Sure.
We're good.
Yeah.
I have a story. And this story sums up what I was talking about, mental health, but it also sums up what you're talking about, taking care of your body and then not coming from a net negative. Now, this is not a happy story. I'm going to just
disclaimer
that right
disclaimer.
Now. This is a sad story.
Got it.
And I'm not going to use anybody's names because, medical stuff, hospital.
Sure.
But I remember being there at the hospital. I was part of the lift team. Our job was to, if somebody couldn't move or somebody needed help up, we would lift them.
Yeah.
And we also had machines that we would use to do that. Body mechanics is my favorite. I love sitting next to someone and like, you need help up? And I just whip them. They're like, I did nothing. I'm like, body mechanics.
Yep.
So we had a guy in there. He was about 620 pounds. He could not, his heart was failing. That's why he was in there. So when your heart fails and you're that big, your body becomes at such a negative state that his fat was actually melting. So when we would grab him to move him, our hands would be wet. And I asked the nurse, what is that? And she goes, no, that's his body is literally failing. I was like, wow. So we're in there with him. And we saw this guy every day because we had to rotate him 3 times a day. We saw him every day for a year. So we got to talk with him.
And you say rotate him, you mean like literally like put him on a different part of his body?
Yeah, because if you didn't, you get bed sore.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, they would do baths, and we had to make sure that as the baths were happening, we would rotate them. Because again, friction, right? Your body, if there's sweat, becomes acidic. All of a sudden it eats through. That creates the bed sores.
Yeah.
So a year. And so I remember watching this guy.
Sad.
And I saw a bag next to him, and it was full. It was a 2-liter soda. It was a candy bar. And I saw this, an AM PM bag every day.
This is my surprise face, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so I saw that and I was just like, okay. And then one day we're rotating him, and the doctor just came in and had a conversation with him and says, look, you're going to die. Do you cherish your life? If you do, we can help you take the steps. You're in heart failure, but that doesn't mean we can't stop it from failing. we have X amount of time. If you want to live, live. And if you don't, let me know where you want us to put you, and we'll put you there. The doctor was very straightforward and honest.
Wow. Shout out to that doctor. That's incredible.
No, when he was a heart doctor, most heart doctors don't have time because they have to take care of a lot of people. So the girl there was a girl visiting him frequently. It was his fiance. And so she came in and she's like, hey, honey. So as soon as he left, we're rotating him still. And she goes, hey, I brought you some stuff. And she brought the bag full of sodas and candies. And he looks at her and goes, no. She says, what? He goes, no, I can't do this. And she's like, does that mean you don't love me? And he goes, no, I love you, but I need to get better. For you, I need to get better.
Yeah.
So she stormed off. Extremely frustrated, she stormed off. Well, the Wii, you remember the Wii back in the day, the whole thing?
Oh, yeah.
The hospital got a Wii, and his insurance paid for it.
Nice.
And he said, I'm going to turn this around. So they put him in a spot, and he was doing that. They watched his diet and exercise, and he started doing that. I watched him lose hundreds of pounds.
I don't doubt it.
He went from 620 pounds, I want to say, within 3 to 4 months, he was at 400 pounds. Like just losing weight. He started walking because he couldn't walk before that. Started walking, started doing all this crazy stuff. Another 3 months pass. I mean, the guy, they literally had to do a tummy tuck on him because
all the additional skin. Yep.
He looked amazing. He's in there. The doctor says, you're in remission. Your heart is no longer failing. You're good. We'll keep you on a diet.
Yeah.
And everything was good. His fiance comes in. And I remember watching this. And it was one of those weird things where I kind of was like fly on the wall, and I was like, I really don't want to be here for this conversation. But it changed my life. But she comes in and she looks at him and he goes, hey, and she goes, I don't even recognize you anymore. And he's like, but
in a good way?
But I changed for you. I'm healthy. And she goes, well, you're not the man that I wanted to marry. And she throws back the ring to him. The guy sobs because he spent 6 months of his life improving his body for this woman. 2 weeks later, he died from a broken heart. He stopped doing everything. He stopped doing he wouldn't even talk. He wouldn't eat because everything he was doing in his heart was purposed for that. I told you right off the get, it's a sad story. But I think there's a huge lesson that can be learned from that. You need to do it for you. You need to do what you're doing for you. You need to be healthy. And then when you're healthy, you'll surround yourself with other healthy people.
Yeah.
And you need to realize that the work that you put in can be lost.
Yeah.
And what really matters is that you are building the community around you to help you keep support. So when you do stumble and you do fall and those things do happen, you can recover. He didn't have anybody else.
Yeah.
I never saw another person visit that man out of the year of him being there. And I think that's like, that just proves to the testament, right?
Yeah.
And we were all dumbfounded. I was like, they're like, yeah, did you hear? I was like, what? They're like, oh, he passed away. I was, there's no way. I said, that guy last summer. I said, just saw him walking down the other day. I gave him a high five. And they're like, yeah, no, he literally died of a broken heart. It's documented. I was, what? So not to end it on a bummer note, I don't want to do that, but I want that to be the reality that we need to understand. It's
your life depends on it.
Yeah.
So take it seriously.
Absolutely. And and you may be around someone, and this is when it comes to health and relationships. Starting a relationship in a net negative. If somebody comes to you and you're in your negative state, and then they fix that, and all they do is, now that they fixed you, you're no longer interesting, that becomes a toxic relationship pretty fast.
Yeah.
Because now they're like, well, you don't know any better. And it's like, no, I'm trying to do better.
And all they ever did was try to fix you. Yeah.
And so sometimes we come to people in life and we meet them in a different state, and then we don't give them the opportunity to come out of their cocoon and be who they're supposed to be. We hold them in our mind as the broken person. I mean, I love being my mother's son. I still have people, oh my gosh, I remember when you were this big. And I will never, but you're Mrs. Steele's son. I'll never be seen in their eyes as a man. So I'll never have conversations like a man with them because it won't be received.
Sure.
Right? That doesn't mean
they're not on the right frequency. Yeah.
But their mind is, oh, he's a child.
Yeah. That's Joe Steele's son. It's not Joe.
Exactly.
That's Mrs. Steele's son.
And And I think that in society as large, we don't realize how important it is to start acknowledging somebody as soon as you can, acknowledging them for them and not for just their parents, because that's when they come out of the cocoon and really become who they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing. Don't wait until you are overweight or you're uncomfortable or you hurt or you're taking all this medicines before you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Don't start at a net negative.
Yeah.
Let's just try and balance that out and get that at a net positive.
And to add to that, get around people
yes
that have even remotely, and that's the magic of personal training, right?
Yes.
Because if somebody doesn't have a support system, go out and get it.
Yeah.
Period. And if you're listening to this, and if you're in the Yuba or Sutter areas, there are so many incredible
absolutely
trainers in and around this area. I mean, just from the top down, that you can reach out to, lean into. Ask nutritional questions, get nutritional coaching. That if you can't find the community, and if you can't find a friends group or circle with that mindset, go out and get it.
Yep.
Period. Something that I was chatting with Marnie about a couple weeks ago was starting a little moai, a little walking group.
Yeah.
And it's not on the calendar yet, but we're looking at kicking it off either the last week of January or first week of February as kind of like and a couple weeks ago, the goal was to be able to kickstart it for January, and then the nasties hit my family like right after Christmas.
Oh yeah.
And just kind of lingered. I was like, you guys, I've got to back burner this for a little bit. I got to take care of my kids and make sure work is front burner and everything else. But right now what we're looking at is a group that gets together once a week. Right now we're eyeing Thursday mornings.
Perfect.
And we're looking at Heart of Yuba City, which is Plymouth Street, and starting right there at Blue Zones at the south end of Plymouth Street. There's parking right there by the water tower.
Yep.
Starting right there in the morning, partnering up with Stillhouse Coffee, so Stillhouse can roll out some coffee over, do a quick little like warm up session right there, and then just march down to where Plymouth Street dead ends into, doesn't dead end, but Plymouth Street hits Highway 20, and then looping right there, heading all the way back down, and then right back. And that right there, I'm gonna walk it, or I'm at least gonna walk it out, and then or at least drive it out to see it. But that right there should be just under a mile.
Yeah.
So for the crew that is willing, we'll probably end up doing 2 laps of it. I would like for it to be at least a mile.
Yeah. Sure.
We may do like some little like jetties down some side streets just to get in all the appropriate steps. But a crew of individuals that are wanting to start their mornings, at least their Thursday mornings out, connecting with other people. It's obviously it's going to be free. It's just something for the community to plug into.
Absolutely.
A lot of people want to move and they don't know where to start, or maybe they can't afford a gym membership.
Sure.
This is for you. So if you're hearing this and you want a little bit more accountability, and you're wanting a group that you can kind of grow with, build some friendships with, move together. Movement together is going to get you a lot further than trying to do it on your own.
Absolutely.
That's where we're starting. So continue to check in here, chime in the comments if that's something that you're interested in. But it's going to be, I'm super excited.
It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be awesome.
This year, if you had any resolutions and they've failed, they haven't. They have failed when you give up on them.
100%.
And take an honest look at you and go, am I starting at a negative? Am I starting at a positive? Am I starting at 0? And then make the gains and goals and make them realistic.
Yeah.
I always laugh when someone's just like, I want to learn guitar. I'm like, okay, I love to teach you. I just don't have time. And you break down the time and all of a sudden you're like,
you got a lot of time.
You've got a lot of time. They're like, oh, what else would you like to learn? Because at this point, you can learn all these other things too. It's just the perspective shift.
Yeah.
So take the season, look at it, and then find like-minded people. Surround yourself.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
Bro, love you, man.
Love you, buddy.
Thank you for checking out the Cam and Joe Show.
If you guys are liking our content so far, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You can also listen to us on Spotify.